nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast in association with the Scottish Rugby Blog. I got caught out there because the singing ended on my stream really early, and it just I was like, hello. So hello, I'm Craig Manson. I'm your host tonight, and I hope you're having a lovely day. It's been a lovely sunny day, and it's not too bad at all. I am being joined tonight by our resident doctor. He tries to give us advice on healthy things and how to look after, give ourselves a healthy life. He is our lifestyle guru, in fact. But Alan McDonald,
I am the embodiment of health. It's just, unfortunately, in a kind of Buddhist way, or more the Buddha style way. The Buddha would have been a great loose head.
Yeah, I tell you. Well, I am of the chant, those in glass houses should not throw stones. So I will stay out of that conversation altogether, Alan, and we will move on very quickly. But yes, and Joyce will also join us tonight is our resident IT expert and also high flyer, globe-trotting, flying around the world. Okay, he's just flying to London next week. But Mark Riley, how are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing very well, Craig. Thanks for the intro. All you guys.
And what have we been up to this week, lads? Have we Alan, anything exciting happening in your life this week?
Well, wee bit of excitement on Saturday coming up, but otherwise we've just been running about like the proverbial fly at work, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of it's one of those situations. I don't think there's anyone that would sit in anyone who's listening would sit down and go, yeah, all those doctors and nurses, etc., in the NHS to sit around on their backsides and do nothing. So we can understand that. And Mark, what have you been up to this week? Much?
No, I've had a relatively quiet one. Bit of work stuff on, which has been a bit of fun. It's nice to use the little grey cells.
Yeah.
Again. But I had cause to have a lengthy interaction with BA today, however. But my comments on that must be reserved for the Patreon.
I was going to quote a BA, give a whole BA quote, and I've totally forgotten it. So I'm just, and as you can probably tell, my week's been busy, and so I'm turning into more of a, someone with dementia regularly. So I'll keep it very, very quiet. But yeah, it's although I have had quite a good couple of weeks. I'm sorry to everyone who was expecting to speak to us or listen to us last week. It just things all kind of mounted up, and everyone had different things going on in their lives, and we had to take a week off. But we couldn't celebrate so much that Edinburgh got their finger out and actually qualified for the top 8 in the quarterfinals. I have to say, a great job by everyone involved, including Sean Everett. So we'll see how, and we're going to talk about this later on in the Patreon side of our podcast about the preview of both Glasgow and Edinburgh in the quarter finals. So I will do my usual bit of our Patreon. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast. Our podcast is part of the Sport Social Network, and don't forget to give us a follow or a like on your favourite podcast app. Oh, a bit of windy pops there. My apologies. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to give us a follow on social media. We can find Allan where on social media?
I'm still on Twitter /X as Old Generalist, and I'm on Blue Sky's Old Generalist. But I'll be honest, I haven't really. Don't really do that much with Twitter, and I certainly don't do that much with Blue Sky. I just haven't got to the habit of actually doom scrolling in Blue Sky yet, and the jury's out as to whether or not that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. And Mark, we can find you where?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky as Border Badger. I'm pretty regularly on Blue Sky, hanging around there, ranting usually about matches and decisions I'm not happy with. So feel free to come on and poke fun at me. I still have an account on the old place, but I barely use it. The only reason the account still exists is because Edinburgh and Glasgow teams haven't moved their accounts over yet.
Yeah. And you'll find me. I'm Scrum Champion on both X and on Blue Sky. We don't tend to. The pod doesn't really use X anymore due to our Elan's specialist subjects of. I'll not go into it on the open media, but on his specialist subjects that he seems to like to follow.
I think we could safely say he's an unpleasantly elitist fellow.
Yes. And now he's had to leave a little bit of politics here, a little bit of politics, and that's a reference that only older people will get. Elon is leaving now, so he's going to go and try and save Tesla again because he's neglected it a little bit. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But anyway, I got halfway through there. You can find all of the links to us on our site, www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk. If you're listening on Apple and like what we do, if you please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Now, if you'd like more content and you want to support what we do, you can subscribe to our Patreon from just £3 plus VAT a month, and that gives you access to our super secret Facebook group and the second part of tonight's podcast, as well as Patreon exclusives. Now, we're going to have to actually, I think we are going to have a break fairly soon, and I think we're going to have to actually start doing some Patreon specials, because we've been, Cammy and John and Ian and all that used to do them, and we have neglected a little bit. So to our patrons currently, sorry, we haven't been doing that very often, but we will try and get more into it. And those that are thinking about becoming patrons of the podcast, expect a little bit more from us, because, you know, we promise we're going to do it, and we should actually do it. So my apologies on that one. But don't hold back on your money just yet. You're quite welcome to just carry on and subscribe to us. So we will move on from the sort of everyday stuff that we have to do in the podcast, and we'll move on to news. And well, let's two quickies first of all, because there's some fairly heavy stuff coming through. But this week we had, Kyle Rowe has extended his contract, lads, by 2 years. It seems to be through till 2027, I think it is. Alan, a good signing for Glasgow. I think it's good to have him keep. He seems to be, part of the furniture now.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's someone that is both a good player that can fill a number of positions, and also he seems to be a good member of the squad. He seems to be liked, and seems to be someone that's always pushing people up, and getting it to be kind of like buoying the mood up and things. So I think it's a good signing, a good re-signing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, it keeps him in Scotland. it seems to be this is going to be the way it's going to be. We want Scotland players and Scottish qualified players playing up in Scotland. The new Nucifera way. Nucifera. Zaflora. And then it just go into Zaflora, and then I start doing an advert for stuff that smells funny. It seems to be a good bit of business though, and he works well for Scotland.
I think he does. I think he's a very good player. I think he suits the Glasgow and Scotland style. He's not afraid to run straight and take a chance if he sees it. I think a lot of that probably is because he came through the Sevens programme.
Yeah.
He's got an eye for space and the pace to do something about it. So yeah, I think it's a great sign for Glasgow. I think it's good that we have a lot of Scottish players, but I think in the last Patreon episode I was quite clear about my thoughts on going for a Scotland player only for Edinburgh for Glasgow. I think keeping players in Scotland where we can look after them is a good thing, but I don't think we have enough. We don't have enough teams to solely go down that route.
So you're going to be adopting the Welsh Rugby Union binfire style. Let's have more teams, and let's have them all fighting against each other sort of style, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just have one national team fight once a year.
Excellent.
And whoever wins gets first choice of the incoming players.
We'll have to wait and see when we're going to be. Well, hopefully we'll get an invite to the breaking ground ceremony for the new Scottish Rugby hotel when they start building
and zip line.
Mark, are you talking about going back to the days of the old Reds versus Blues game?
Yeah,
or shirts and skins, isn't it?
Well, did you remember they abandoned it after Peter Wright caused a fight one year? In the Scotland selection game.
Yeah, wasn't it? It was it was the Red versus Blues, and it was the Probables versus the Possibles. Was that right?
That's right. The Blues were the Probables, weren't they? And the Reds were the Possibles.
That's just asking for a fight to start with.
Especially in the forwards. I mean, come on.
Especially if you're putting Peter Wright in the Possibles, yeah.
So a nice segue, although it's not very good segue, but a nice segue from Kyle Rowe coming through the Scotland Sevens situation. The next bit of news is GB Sevens contracts are finishing up in July. Lots and lots of people it's all being restructured, and Sevens are being cut. All three, Wales, England and Scotland are all supporting this and have all turned around and said, yeah, this is what we're going to do, because the schedule and the Sevens schedule and the Sevens, it's all the Sevens' fault. It's got nothing to do with money saving and et cetera, et cetera. It's all the Sevens schedule and all the different things they've done. But yeah, it looks like they're going to now go with a camp-based model. So basically, they're going to invite players in to camp that they're going to pick for that particular Sevens tournament and getting ready for. So basically, what we're looking at, Mark, is GB Sevens is now going to be an invitation to professional rugby players to come in and play, and like Antoine Dupont comes in to play and try and get gold. At the Olympics, and then we're never going to hear from them again. Hear from the Sevens team again until 4 years' time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for the players that it's gone this way.
Yeah.
But from a Scotland perspective, what benefit was it giving us when we ran our own teams? We at least got the return on our investment that some of the good players were coming through that track. I mean, Kyle Rowe's a perfect example, right? But we've got a few more internationalists now. I know George Horn came through the Sevens programme, is that right?
Yeah, so did Pete.
And Darcy? Did Darcy play Sevens?
I don't know about Darcy. I think he did. You might be right. But yeah, sorry.
So that's partly a development a development area for us. If we then move to the GB7s model, it was no longer that development pathway for us anyway. So honestly, why spend any money on it? The only contention I have about it being a camp invitational thing is that you then run the risk of them saying, okay, Darcy, next year you're in the Sevens Olympic programme and you're not playing for Scotland, as they did with Rona Lloyd, and then she never even went to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, Alan, that's, it seems to be, we'll go through them, but, you've got Kyle Rowe, you've got Mark Bennett, you've got Pete Horn, George Horn, all played sevens, all travelled around the world with the sevens circuit with Scotland. And first things first, we mourned the loss of Scotland sevens when it happened, when it decided to bring it all together and call it GB sevens.
We mourned it before it happened. We mourned it when Scott Johnson tried to get rid of it.
Absolutely, yeah. But if you look at the players that have come through the system and have, for example, I know for a fact, with George, especially George and Pete as well, but especially George. George was starting to, he's coming through the 18s and the 20s, and he got a massive amount from sevens, and it really pushed him forward. And he came home and got his contract with Glasgow, and I don't think he's ever looked back. So it's a real missed opportunity, Alan.
Yeah, I think that's right. It was introducing people into a high performance environment. This is the step up. This is what's expected of you. You're playing for Scotland, and I think that helped people bridge into professionalism. And I think we don't know the books. I suppose we don't know the numbers. We're not looking at the return on investment. We just see Darcy and George Horn and Pete Horn, but we don't know how much it's costing to turn that out. I guess this is me trying to be even-handed, but it does seem a shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the challenges as well is I wonder how much of the fan base they lost by amalgamating the teams into GB. I like the sevens game. It may shock you to know that I wasn't really much of a sevens player.
No. All of us seem to play sevens regularly.
We've all got that shape, haven't we?
At a high level.
But I enjoy watching the game. And if Scotland were playing, I would actively seek it out.
Yeah.
If GB were playing, it wasn't the same. It's not because of any nationalist thing. It's because I'm a Scotland supporter.
It's the Border Reivers at large all over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think also in my humble opinion, I'm fairly similar to yourself, Mark, and I'm sure you, Alan. But when it was the HSBC 7 series, and all of us were, they had these events in Las Vegas and in London, and all these different, all around the world. You watched, and I remember when George Horn was playing, and he won the Scotland won the London Sevens, and everyone were like scratching their head, going, "How did Scotland win that?" And it was actually they played incredibly well, and and they were doing incredibly well. They were doing great things. Sorry, if you hear any barking, it's my dogs are going crazy out in the back garden at the passers-by.
Wasn't it Dougie Fife that scored the winning try at the death against South Africa to win that tournament?
Yeah.
There's another one that went through at international level. He wasn't a superstar, but he was a top-class international player, yeah?
Yeah, and Dougie Fife he brought a lot to I think it was the Free Jacks he went and played for over in America. He brought a lot over there. He played well for Edinburgh. He was a stalwart for Edinburgh for a long time. And it's as you say, it introduces professionalism to a lot of players. And I think it was, now I'm going to get absolutely and utterly ruin this name, but it was Kareem Barreto Kareem Barreto, the Scotland 9 or the youth Scotland 9. He was saying he's absolutely gutted that his contract's been finished up, and he was definitely developing through the system as well. So So yeah, it's a real shame. And I think, have we got someone getting a call? I think Alan's getting a call. Is that John Anderson calling in to talk about the Italian teams?
No. It's it's my son's cricket coach.
Right.
So I will.
You will disappear for a couple of minutes. Crack on.
Might actually. Is that okay?
Yeah, crack on, my friend. No bother at all. We'll mute you. There we go. So we will move on from that, and another bit of breaking news. Chris Harris, Mark, is. We're all worried about Chris Harris, wondering where he was going, and would you believe he's popped up at Bath? Bath have just announced today that Chris Harris is signing for a year's contract as injury cover. And if you're going to jump in out of the frying pan into the fire, he's done the certain thing to go and have a bit of a game at Bath. That's a pretty good move for Chris Harris, and Bath are getting a great player.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, it's a good move for both of them. Having spent a fair amount of time in the West Country, I'd be interested in how the Gloucester fan base treat him.
Yeah,
with a Bath shirt on. But no, I think it's a good move for him. He'll be playing. I mean that's the possibility of what Finn, Redpath, and Harris,
yeah.
as the Bath centres and fly off. I think that's I think it's a good move. I mean, one of the lads, I can't remember who it was, posted that what a great way to get back into the Scotland reckoning. By taking a gig that puts you outside of Finn Russell. I'm not sure, but it could be interesting. I mean, one of the things that I do seem to recall reading, and I can't remember where, is I didn't, as I've said before, I don't have Sky, so I don't see English rugby. And it might be you that commented on it, that his attack at Gloucester seemed to be far, far better than we used to see in a Scotland shirt.
Yeah, I think we all talked about Chris Harris as one of the best defenders and one of the most intelligent defence sort of captains in the back line. And we have to. How can I say this without sounding, unkind to Chris Harris? But if you remember, I remember him playing his first game, and if I remember his first game, he was on the wing, of all things, if I remember correctly. He came on for the wing, and we all looked at each other and went, "Who the hell is this? And what's he doing in the Scotland team?" He's absolutely no use whatsoever, because I don't think he had a particularly good game.
He was in Cardiff and he had an absolutely shocking game. I think, to be fair, Scotland had a shocking game. But
yes, because I think if I remember correctly, Byron McGuigan was either on the other wing or he was around the team at the same time. Yeah. And lo and behold, both Byron McGuigan and Chris Harris turn out to be two of the best defensive minds there are in the game. And Chris Harris has really, he basically went on a Lions tour due to his defensive capabilities, with Gloucester and with Scotland. So, I think we always, as coaches, always tell the teams defence wins games. And also, it seems to be that defence wins you a Scotland cap and a Lions test jersey as well.
Indeed, yeah.
Alan, it's good to see you back. We're talking about Chris Harris has signed for Bath, and we're discussing the fact that Chris Harris has basically got a Scotland's. We're talking about how Chris Harris's attack has got better and better, but he will be well known as a Scotland player who was a phenomenal defensive player.
Yeah, I think that was a part of the game where he stood out. That was the thing that got him in the Lions too, as you said. And honestly, we loved him for it. It's just a wee bit unfortunate for him that as he's aged, Shoney's come in and does a lot more in attack and does not quite the same in defence, but close enough that it's worth the trade-off for the extra attack. That's kind of, I think, what's happened. And having Shoney lets you play Shug outside of him as well.
And you got to be honest, Hugh Jones 2.0 has definitely brought a better defensive game as well, because he wasn't known as a good defender.
I actually think he's taken something that was seen as a liability, and I think rightly seen as a liability, and made it an asset now. I think he has actually worked really, really hard on that part of his game, and that's again probably why he's in the Lions reckoning.
Absolutely. Last bit of news, and I'm looking forward to this chat, because there's some fantastic news in this news section. But the Scotland training squad for the World Cup has been announced, and we've got a fantastic group of athletes all getting ready for going down south to England to play in the World Cup. 4 uncapped players are in the squad. Now there's Ayla Ronalds, Edinburgh player, Hannah Ramsey, Edinburgh player, Hannah Walker, Edinburgh player, and Meg Varley from Bristol, all getting the opportunity to train with the squad. I think they've been training with the squad already, but they're still uncapped, so hopefully they'll get an opportunity to come through. Holly Cunningham and Corbin Grant back after some injury troubles, and they're back in the squad to get ready. Obviously, my favourites, Molly Pullman and Adele Ferry, are in the squad as well, which is great. But the only Emma Wassell is back from her illness troubles and her quite horrible news that she's had, and she's back to the training squad and hopefully back into a Scotland jersey. Allan, great news for Was to be,
what an ambassador for the game she's been. She's just been brilliant. And any interviews that you've seen, obviously she must have been upset and angry about everything that's happened to her, but none of that's come through. She's just very much, I want to get focused and getting back to the game. She's clearly loved by her teammates. There's a big thing about them coming through and seeing her, making sure that she knows she's still part of the squad, and that's great.
Yeah, and Mark, what's coming through with this Scotland squad, and they're adding new players now here and there now and then, and they're moving forward. There just seems to be this. It's an incredibly exciting time for Scotland women. I hesitated calling them women because I like to just call them Scotland. But just to clarify with anyone who is looking around thinking what Scotland training squad, it's a Scotland women's training squad. But sorry to mansplain that one there. I totally and utterly did that. Anyway, I'll move on very quickly. But yeah, Allan, Mark, it's a real move forward. They seem to just enjoy being in each other's company as well, and they seem to be a team that enjoy their time together.
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoken about it before, specifically about the women's setup, but we talk a lot, or I talk a lot about the culture of teams and how that has to be pulled together, and everybody needs to be behind it. And I genuinely think that there's a fantastic culture within that team, and it's clearly exhibited by some of the leaders in there, like Rachel Markham, like Waz, like Rona Lloyd. I think one of the things that I was amazed by during Emma Wassell's illness and recovery was how much her teammates were going to see her, making sure she was okay. They spoke about her a lot. She spoke about them a lot. And to me, that says what she brings to that environment.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's coming back in will be very positive towards that. And all of these youngsters coming through, the likes of Molly Pullman and Adele Ferry and such like coming in, they'll be coming into a culture that's already strong. So they'll not be able to help themselves but buy into that.
Yeah.
And that can only help the team. And that's why There was a slight rumour I heard about Brian Easton moving on at the end of the Six Nations, and I'm really glad that he has not, because he has a massive part to play in how that has become positive as well. He's part of that setup too, you know. So I think it's all good and strong, a lot of them.
Yeah, I think you know, and I'll say this publicly because I want to say it publicly. Let's just say that Brian, you know, when he came on board, it's not that there was questions, but there were a lot of people sat back and went, right, prove yourself now. Also, there was a lot of people who felt that there should be different coaches in there. There was but considering what he's done with the lack of coaching staff, because he's only really, if I remember correctly, at the time he'd only had about 2 or 3 people help at the backing up. And I know that he brings a wealth of rugby knowledge, and what he has done alongside and we'll bang this drum that we've been banging for a long time, but bringing alongside him coming on board and then the professional contracts coming in, he's really upped the skill levels of the players, and it's amazing. And we keep saying it. Who knew that if you made sure that the Scotland players didn't have to have second jobs to keep themselves keep a roof over their heads, they actually would be able to train correctly and their skills build. So yeah, it's a fabulous thing, and hats off to all the coaching staff that are involved, all the backroom squad that are involved, and obviously the team themselves. It's a phenomenal thing they're doing, and I think I'm going to sound really, Alan, I'm going to sound a bit dour here, but let's hope that we get some nice results at the World Cup. I'm not expecting them to go and win it, but I think we need to keep our heads well and truly on our shoulders when it comes to this sort of thing, and make sure that they're going forward, but not get too ahead of ourselves.
So that's an interesting one then, to play like David from Scrum of the Earth and start hosting the pod on you, Craig. What would you think would constitute success for Scotland? You know, obviously, I think you're right. We're not talking about winning it, but what is it? Performances? Is it a degree of achievement? You know, getting to the quarterfinals or whatever. Is it? What success look like?
Obviously, if we're going to measure the team against the natural measurement of Scottish rugby, Scottish men's rugby, we're going to turn and say, well, we want to have them in the quarterfinals. And if we could get to the quarterfinals, I think that's a real tick box achievement. That's amazing. They need to be applauded for it. For me, it's slightly different. I would like to see game performance. So, and what they've been doing in the last couple of games that we've seen them play. At the Six Nations, I think they had a poor game against Italy. However, the game against France, etc., they showed sustained amount of time taking pressure, dealing with with defence. They're kicking from hand, their attack far more fluid, etc. So, what I'd like to see, honestly, for me, I would really like to see them have less tries scored against them and scoring more tries. And if we have that within this World Cup campaign that's coming up, if we can walk away with some team members in the team of the championship, some team members really standing out, and some incredibly well put together games, I think that's a forward movement. Obviously, I'd love them to get to the quarterfinals. I think that's going to be an absolute. I'm going on a bit here, Alan, but you did ask me a question. You
so seldom get to answer them. I thought it would be nice.
I appreciate that. No, yeah, I just feel that I really do feel that this group is a mixture of young, old, not too old. I'm just old. Senior. Okay. People who and what's nice, and I keep going back to it, and it's not just because I know her, and incredibly proud of her. But you've got team members that have come through different ways now. We're not just dealing with team members who have come through the youth system, which works incredibly well, and it seems to be working well for Scotland. But they've got team members that have come through the youth system. You've got team members that are coming through the Premiership or the system through England. Some have been out to France. And then you've got other team members who are coming in who are older, who are getting their first caps because they've worked incredibly hard and they've been, doing a lot. They've done a lot in the background. They're bringing, probably a more mature head to games. So it's bringing this squad seems to be coming together and together and together, and I think that's what builds a good squad. Because if you've just got a group of youths coming through the system and then they get their Scotland cap, and then you've not got certain people that have come through adversity, although I'm sure some of the youths have come through adversity, but you're getting people that know how to grind out and a performance and to drag themselves into a Scotland squad because just through sheer will. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So I'm not trying to belittle anyone else's journey, but I'm just trying to say there are players there that have done the real hard shift to get themselves into the squad.
I think there has to be a way of different players, different routes for different players, because everyone comes into at a different time. So we've actually done that with medicine. There's now a way for graduate entry into medicine. And what has happened is we've got a flux of people in that are coming in later in life with other life experience and experience working things, who thought the chance at doing medicine had gone. And those of us, I'm part of the cookie cutter that went through the university system, which is actually quite analogous to, going through the academies and the youth system, etc. And we all think we're all people with similar backgrounds who have been taught in the same way. So we have the same thought patterns. And, I think you see that in rugby as well with, Finn Russell, Hugh Jones, these sort of players that kind of break the mold because they don't think in the same way. They're not like, oh, this is the received wisdom. They're like, why can't I do that?
How often have we spoken about it, both on and off air, about where are the new props coming through, learning the trade, going up against the old grizzled veterans if they're coming through the youth system? And that applies both for the men and the women's games.
Yeah.
Because I know, without putting words in your mouth, every one of us would have been turned inside and out by some grizzled veteran at some point. I know I was probably on more than one occasion. Well, definitely one occasion, right? But you learn.
So Kelvin as well a couple of times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So how are the youngsters learning that kind of hard edge if they're just coming through a youth system, playing other youths in Scotland? There has to be that mix. It'll bring through better players.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we will call it quits now, and we're going to move over to our Patreon side of things. So just a reminder, if you would like to join us and listen to a little bit more of the content of what we're doing, go to www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk, and there'll be a link there to take where you can join the Patreon, and you can hear the second half of this conversation, where we're going to talk about Edinburgh, Glasgow, and the upcoming games in the quarter finals of the URC. And also we'll talk about our what has been ripping or knitting this week in Hands in the Ruck as well. And I'm sure we also get a little bit looser and enjoy the odd swear word will come into it as well. Just especially if we're going to be talking about Andy Good. So on that. Take that man's name out of my mouth. Anyway, on that note, we will leave it at that. It's been thanks to Allan and Mark. Thanks for joining me tonight, and thanks to everyone else out there who's listening. And we'll hopefully talk to you next week. Thanks again. Cheers.
Cheers. Right.
David won't mind me joking about that, will he, Craig?
No, it should be all right.